Right. Okay. So, um, another day, more designing. Yeah, I can do live stream times now that are reasonable because I don't have to get a train home. Um, so I've got more time in the evenings to do this kind of thing, and I've actually been giving myself a little bit more time to sleep in the morning, um, which is nice, especially when it's nice and sunny. It's good to have a morning nap. Um, Last time we got to this point with the whale creature thing, and I've been doing some thinking. I've been having some chats with um, my artist friends, namely one Jamie Moore, and we've been talking about actually pinning down maybe some more solid requirements for the design in terms of mood, in terms of personality, that might help us go in a more useful direction. So, the way that I see it, there exists a kind of sliding scale between a few concepts, one of which would be like friendly versus unfriendly. One of them might be um, they're kind of linked, right? But I was thinking serious versus unserious. Like within this narrative, within this story, do I want the people to take this creature seriously and revere it, almost fear it? Do I want it to be less serious, more playful, more fun? That's something I've really got to think about. You've got like other things like cute versus ugly. There's a weird overlap in the middle of those two that I was trying to play around with, but well, got to think about it. So, like, we started from a point earlier on where actually it's really, really, really quite serious. Um, a lot of these feel like they're not very playful at all. Actually, they're just like, bam, there's a serious creature. Um, and then we go up a step, and we lent towards cute. Up another step, we're getting like even cuter. And then we went kind of cute, ugly, pretty ugly actually. Looking back at it, which is fun, but maybe not what we want. And then this is getting quite serious. So we're losing some of the nice aspects I enjoyed, which is actually this sort of ferrety design. I want to bring some of those back in. Um, I do like the long neck, but maybe we play around with actually making it a bit shorter. Maybe it's or maybe the way in which it's long could change. It's kind of a bit wibbly wobbly at the moment. So those are things that I want to think about today. And things that I will be thinking about today. So let's just duplicate this layer. And inside of it we will just hide some stuff. Bonk. Hide that. Okay. In fact, we'll even hide that. And let's just play around with this. So we'll make it a little bit smaller so that we can duplicate it. But I want to think, how can I bring this back to something that's maybe a little bit more appealing to an audience? As as being a little bit more cute. I think the first thing I want to do is get rid of the tail. I think it's a little bit too alien. I wasn't really a big fan of it last time. It was more or less a placeholder. And then the other thing I want to do is just shorten this neck so it can still have a reasonably long neck. Right? But immediately I think we're getting to something that's maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say approachable, but maybe approachable from the perspective of an audience. I find that one of the problems I have is I might be doing a creature. Let's imagine this is a big creature. There you go, there's its front legs, and I come to do the head, and I go, here's like a really wacky thing. It's got another thing coming out of it that spits tubes and whatever else, and it's just like so crazy that an audience can't relate it to anything that already exists, and it becomes it's weird. And I like weird. I do like weird in a design. A lot of my designs are quite wacky, but it's balancing weird with normal. It's like weird versus normal. You want some sense of normality for it to be successful, I think. So, one of those things we talked about, the turkey snood. Well, maybe if we have the turkey snood, we can, but it could be a bit more like a turkey snood, you know, where it's just one big snood, rather than like a whole bunch of little ones, right? So the shapes are a bit bigger, a bit more playful, but we'll play with that. The other thing that I think is happening here is in terms of the silhouette, the fact that from a side view, the mouth is kind of hooking down, is maybe not as appealing as if it either goes straight or comes back up. So let's think about that. There's loads to think about. So, I mean, I could literally just grab this part of the mouth and say, actually it's coming to a nub that's a bit closer. And you see how we're getting a bit closer to something that is maybe stereotypically more adorable. Now we can counter that by, I think one of my favorite parts that I had before is making the front of the mouth bigger, and actually a smaller back of the head. Like I like that. One of the things that I'm quite keen on getting people to do is just avoid coming to any kind of conclusion too quickly. So it's very tempting to go, oh, I've done this drawing and I like it, and so I'm gonna go ahead with it, and that's gonna be my final. Like I had that back here, you know, I was looking at some of these and I was going, oh, I like it, that's what my final thing's gonna be, or this is what my final thing's gonna be. But just leave it, come back to it, look at it again, come back to it, look at it again, change it again, and don't be so quick to sort of fast forward yourself towards something that you don't like. So maybe if we're thinking about how we can simplify the profile of the head, we can just combine it and then place our divot in for effectively like a brown line. But that can be quite subtle. I still like this idea where this part for the cheek sort of comes down. And goes back in. Excuse me, but maybe we can just execute it a little bit better. And I still like the idea that these things have like a larger lower jaw with tusks or something coming out. But maybe that's getting a little too complex, you know? I like that drowsy look. Again, thinking about just simplifying the silhouette of things like the neck. Let's have a think. Let's take this and push it even further up. Yeah, the tail going away is just temporary. We'll add a tail back. It just won't be the one that it was before. I don't like that one. We are getting something a little more stereotypically normal. But I don't necessarily feel that that's a bad thing. I think one of the aspects I want to bring back is actually how sort of long the torso is. And how that maybe brings with it this idea that this creature moves around in a weaselly fashion. I think one of the other things that might allow it to emote more successfully is some kind of appendage that looks like ears, or could be ears. From the crit session yesterday, I quite like those sort of big mousy ears. You know. Well, this thing's got to radiate a lot of heat when it consumes stars. So who's to say it doesn't have these giant mousy ears? So we are getting something much more mammalian, and this is just one iteration, right? So it's barely been 15 minutes of me sketching, and we're arriving at a conclusion that is very, very different to what we had before. Might be that actually I lengthen this out. Maybe the pelvis gets a bit smaller. Ooh, wobbly, 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 wobbly. It does look a bit like a sheep or something, and sheep are quite cute. Sheep are harmless, or we think of them as being relatively harmless, which might be a good thing, you know. I'm not sure I like that. Play with all sorts of really weird shapes here. Maybe we actually go with something incredibly simple. So we're contrasting this like complex underbelly with something nice and simple on the top. But I think we've got to get more of this fuzzy shapeage back in. And maybe we've gone like a little bit crazy. With how long we make it, so just make it a little bit shorter again. I want this to be able to twist like a ferret. So something to think about, right? Part of me wants these back legs to be really tiny, like they don't work, or they don't do much. Makes sense considering this is like a flying creature. And then as for the tail is really tricky. I want this to be a mischievous being. So maybe it's got like a little rat tail. Yeah. Or maybe we give it like a really short tail, you know, like a bunny. Big floating sheep. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It could. I'm in this sort of mid zone where I want to think about the functionality of it, because you need a reasonable amount of functionality in order for it to, well, in order for it to look like it might function. But at the same time, I don't want to go too function heavy, because I want this to be something very I want it to be something mystical and unexplainable. I want someone to look at it and wonder how exactly it stays in the air. Yeah, fragile but puffy makes sense. Yeah, this thing should just sort of, I almost want it to look harmless in a way, like it's just a big baby. We'll play around with the tail more later. Yeah, it could be sharper. I want it to be friendly. I've decided it's gonna be more of a friendly being. Maybe if we do want to bring back some of that weirdness, we can just drop the eyes down a little. I think that works. There is definitely a disconnect between the head and the rest of the body though. So maybe we just open up more of this space. Yeah, big head. Big head. Why not? So, imagining that actually maybe under all of this the neck is quite thin or long. Okay, like that's one iteration on the idea, isn't it? Just duplicate it and flip it. And let's think about how else we can That's pretty weird. What if this thing doesn't have an indication of a mouth at all? Right. It's in there somewhere. It's got a mouth, but actually we can't really see it. We're playing into the mousy stereotype a little bit more, maybe. In which case, let's just Hello. Hello, Ozzy. Are you still on your train? What if we make these back legs more like hooves? Indeed you are. It's still got a little nose. There you go. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Let's leave that like that. I think in order to help sell its scale, we actually make these ears smaller. Much, much smaller. You could almost see this front part of its head as being mistaken for like a comet or a shooting star, you know? But with a body at the end. Yeah, it does have levitating powers, Ariadna. It does. This thing floats through the air. So, how can I explain this without lore dumping? Basically, it's a big celestial friendly giant that eats stars. And so, I want it to look quite friendly. And also like it defies a lot of rules. Now this head, I like this head. This feels alien to me, but in a good way, not in a way that is scary or. So let's do that. Let's just get rid of the pattern on its body. Let's concentrate on okay, I like that. Maybe I don't like those back legs. Maybe it doesn't eat back legs. You know, just all of this just trail off. I like paws. I feel like paws you can use anywhere, whereas hooves definitely solidify it as being... You can't get away from that being a horse, right? Okay, we're going back to something cuter, which is nice. I like that. Let's take this one, work it up a little bit more. What if its back half goes down instead of up? I think that feels more weaselly. And maybe it's got a slightly chunkier upper torso. Ooh. Yeah, it could be the end of its body could just sort of flow into fur. Let's fundamentally change some of these shapes for these front paws. I've had them for a while without playing around with maybe what they could look like. You know, could this actually be something much bigger? Quite like that, yeah. Do we even need 6 limbs? I know we're getting wild now. We're really changing some of these core things that maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. Or maybe if we do have more limbs, they can... Do you know what I mean? They can float somewhere else. I like that. Big sleepy bear. Dog, mouse, goat. Have you seen like lizards floating? No, alligators floating through water, and they kind of do this, where they just put their arms out in like a big C shape, and they float. That's the worst drawing of a crocodile, a little baby crocodile I've ever done, but they float that way. Yeah, it's more whale-like now, which I like. You know, does it necessarily have to float? That way. Put it back where it was. Put it back where it was, quick. Okay. I like that. Yeah, does curving that way make it feel more floaty, or does curving upwards make it feel more floaty? I don't know. It feels like there is a charm to having it just float upwards. Let's stick with that for now. Would I say that during iteration shape is more important than functionality? It entirely depends on what you're drawing, what you've been tasked with designing, what the purpose of it's for. This particular creature is like a celestial deity that, its very nature is the idea that it defies physics. That's the whole point of it, is you would look up in the sky and go, how is this thing floating? And so, yeah, shape is going to be way more important than functionality, because it's all about shape. It doesn't seem to have much of a function. I mean, we spoke about the function of like this sort of a head and how its jaw should work functionally. Its eyes should look like they function, that kind of a thing. But really, it's about shape at this stage. Now, if I were actually designing a vehicle for some kind of thing, right? And the vehicle had to function and move, and actually it serves a purpose, like it's a vehicle that deploys something else onto a battlefield. Well, almost immediately I'd have to start thinking about functionality, and I think the functionality would help me get to a shape that's interesting, right? So there's a difference in approach, and it varies depending on what it is that you're designing, which I think is important. Okay, what if it's little mousy as a way bigger or something? It's like a sleepy bunny. That's kind of funky. It's very bunny rabbit coded now. Could we shape its face just a little bit? That makes it feel more like a rabbit, not less. Suddenly it looks way smaller, right? I guess that was a fundamental indication of scale. No ears? Oh god, no, not no ears. It needs ears. It definitely needs ears to be able to emote properly. Give it those small ears back. Maybe we make the eyes smaller. Yeah, that makes it feel bigger. What if we give it a bigger beard? Just rows and rows of hair. I quite like that, but maybe these back legs aren't reading as well as they could be. Maybe these arms are getting too large. Unfortunately, I'm not a League of Legends player, so I will... Give me a sec, I'll Google what you're talking about. Oh, it's like a dragon, it's like a space dragon. Yeah. And I think I agree with you. I think I like the second one as well. But that's not going to prevent me from trying out different ideas. And that's really the key. It's just this idea that we're playing around with concepts, and when we're doing it in a non-committal way, right? At no point am I going, this is the one. No, it's just it's a sort of slow burn of lots and lots of playing around. Playing is the correct term as well. It's when I say that, I don't use the term lightly. I mean, we're actually playing around. We're sort of pushing boundaries and just seeing what happens, and we're leaving ourselves very, very open to learning whatever kind of outcome might greet us. So, like, let's try this idea that it doesn't have any back legs, shall we? Does it taper off like tons? Yeah. It's almost like a ghost or something. Ugh. Just imagining that this fades off into nothing. But then, does it become something that's a little bit too intangible? Like, I almost like that it's this thing that walks or dances through the sky, and as soon as you get this, it just looks like it sort of floats in a direction which maybe isn't as interesting or ideal. Let's have a think. Yeah, let's just have a stop and think. Okay. We'll leave that one where it is, and we'll take. So that's 2, that's 3. Has a big head. Let's just get rid of that. Let's take this one forward. Make it bigger. Let's actually just make sure that we're just sampling it. No. I've forgotten how to use the program. No? There we go. So let's put that. Let's call this for. Let's take this and let's imagine that this is something we want to take forward. Let's just think about how we can make more changes. So big features can be smaller. Come on, behave, Photoshop. Placement of features can change. Way closer to the front of the head. It's not as cute, is it? We lose the cute factor. I think we kind of lose the cute factor from them being a bit smaller, but it does make it feel a little wiser as well. Let's bring back in long weasel body. So let's take these back limbs, make them smaller, make them further away, put them up here. Down into where the rib cage might be. Maybe I should do some actual studies of see how their bodies look. Because this is a little bit crazy, but I don't mind it. Maybe the stomach should just be a little bit bigger. Maybe the transition into the ribcage a little less harsh. Right, so we've got this big thing. We could even say that further down. Thank you, Megan. It spins around again. Yeah. Yeah. It's doing something wacky, but maybe not. We've got to do something with this to make it interesting. And one of the things that we had earlier was this idea of like actually that sort of ribbed skin from a humpback whale. Maybe we bring that back, and then you can imagine this getting quite full once it's ingested a star. And these back legs are getting so tiny, and what's the word when something vestigial? They're becoming almost vestigial to the point where this does begin to look like a whale, you know, like it's the temperature fins or something. I think I like the bigger eyes. Maybe the bigger eyes can be further back on the head. Further up seems to make it look older. Further down's more fun though. Something about this has to be fixed. Okay, I am just gonna quickly eat something. So I'm going to mute myself, leave the music playing, and I will be right back. Okay, even just, I don't know how long exactly I was gone for, but I think even just like the 5-10 minutes that I went and ate 2 slices of pizza was enough for me to rethink my actions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and I'm going to slot them in there, and then I'm going to take this one, and actually I think this is just, I think somehow I struck gold. I think this is pretty much my ideal creature, and so we'll work on this. So what I want to work on is actually seeing it function in some way. Like, how does its mouth work? Try to ignore the horrible slurping noises as I eat chips and drink Robinson's cordial. This is not a sponsored stream. So let's for a second draw out this head again. In fact, why give ourselves more work? Let's just copy this. This thing at some point is going to have to open up its mouth. Which is probably going to look something like this. Looks kind of like an old man. I don't know if you want that. Maybe we don't. Maybe that should come down. I'm still fond of that idea from before, but so here it is, about to consume. A star. Its ears are gonna, let's just think about what else might happen. physiologically. It's gonna get pretty excited about the fact that it's finding a tasty morsel to eat. And so are its ears gonna pop up. It's gonna become more awake. Are its arms gonna it's getting a little bit more, I could say, in hunting mode. You know, do you ever see like a really cute dog? And it's adorable. And then you give it like a chew toy and all of a sudden it becomes the most savage creature on the planet. That's kind of what I'm imagining. Or like you see bears a lot. Bears are cute, right? Until they're not. So maybe that's what I want this thing to potentially be a danger. But I mean, even this, can it look a little bit? Can it look a little bit crazier? Like an angry cow? And then maybe this back set of limbs. You know, folds back. Like it's really going mad, diving towards whatever it's after. Maybe. Something wacky like this. Should we think about the tail problem? It is a problem. The fact that I don't know what to do with it shows that it's a problem. This limb is 100% going to be sort of folded inwards. Okay, let's think about the tail. I'm gonna mute myself and eat a couple of chips while I think. So, the tail of this thing. I have to imagine it's a big, long, wispy. Does it coil around itself, you know? That could be really fun. Maybe something like that. So what we had before, it was maybe a bit too creepy or scary. Still cute, but not in a conventional way. We're definitely going in more of a conventional direction now, and who knows, I might wake up tomorrow and say, actually, I hate all of this, and go back to something I did in sketch 1, right? Like, I still really love this head. I might go back to it, but that's yet to be seen. So for now, let's colour in the background. And I will answer any... This is my talk with chat time. Anyone in chat, do you have any questions about art, painting, design, while I calmly colour in my drawings? doing relatively well. I mean, it's funny looking back at this one. It's now my least favorite. You know, I think we have maybe it's just me. I think I have a most up-to-date bias, where it's like whatever I'm drawing in that moment, I'm like, oh, this is better than the last thing I did for sure. And then I look back at it and I'm like, oh, I did something better than this 3 hours ago. But I think that happens. It happens to a lot of people. And I think there is a maturity to being able to go back to something you did do 3 hours ago and go, this was better, I'm going to go back to this. I've been playing a lot of Fallout 4 recently, and I even did it in Fallout 4 where I made a series of decisions that led a lot of NPCs to hate me, but I was like 3 hours, I had committed to those decisions for 3 hours, and I ended up really not enjoying the game and the path that I had chosen, so I just reset. I was like, no, the last 3 hours don't count. I'm going back to when things were better and I was having fun. And so I reverted my save, and yeah, I had to do 3 hours of quests all over again. But I mean, I guess that's what a video game is I'm paying for something that's gonna take up my time. So an extra 3 hours squeezed out of a game, yippee. I might just be low on volume. The line art brush that I'm using is this, which is, I cannot remember for the life of me where I got it. It's been in my brush pack for a very, very long time, for a few years at least, and it's small. The brush that I get a lot of my students to use is just this is just a soft round brush, but if you make the soft round brush really, really small, that's also quite a nice line art brush that I'll sometimes use. So I think this is similar but with a little bit of texture, basically. So yeah, my brushes are available on the Patreon. Though if you are a student at the university, I don't recommend that you subscribe to my Patreon, because that would be some kind of strange conflict of interests. I do give out my brushes to the students in my classes anyway. I think there are a few modules where you get my brushes. Here he is. He kind of reminds me of like an angry koala here. If you've ever seen an angry koala. And then this little star is that colour there. Okay, gang. It's been a relatively short one, an hour and a half, so half an hour shorter than the last one I did. That's alright. I'll try and do these more regularly, I think, and they'll be roughly around the same time, like 6 PM onwards. So, see if you can catch another one. But this is nice. I like doing a couple of sketches and then logging off. Maybe one day I'll do like a 15-hour stream or whatever, but just racking these up is pleasant. You know, maybe some of these I should. In fact, maybe all of them. There you go, we can do that. We can make them a little bit darker. Okay, yeah. Have a lovely rest of your Monday, and we'll see if I'm back on tomorrow. See if we can make a good productive habit of this